LS movies. Like I say, people used to call me Ellis because my initials were LS, so Lucifer Star. So I made a lot of movies back in the day, and not that anyone really knows or cares because there was a black war, basically a race war at some point in time, somewhere beginning, like I say, 1920, going on to 1940 and other subsequent years. Basically, the black people decided to do a race war. Um, Pretty much, basically, it was Harlem and Wolf. Well, basically, Papa and Mr. Brown and Mr. Black and a couple other black people that had kind of taken over Africa and decided that no white person deserves food or basically the right to live. Anyway, though, but lots of my movies use real trains and real stuff. We still do it today, kind of, except nowadays, I've cut the budget quite a bit. But back in the old days, I used to actually sacrifice trains and cranes and a few things every now and then for every one of my choice movies. I'd be spending a lot of money, like probably like equivalently like a couple $1 million, like yeah, I mean, like $1,000 could actually buy you a lot, or 1,000 gold could buy you quite a bit back in the day. And I'd be spending like $2,000, which is the equivalent of basically a couple $1 million on a movie, pretty much. So even though, well, it was a brand new art form actually back then, so I didn't really get all that much, and the black people were trying to scam basically every single penny pretty much and initiate a race war, which actually did happen starting at some point, somewhere around 1920 or something like that. And the black people tried to starve everyone. But for the movies part, they actually did sacrifice real trains. I'd be sacrificing like $150 train, which is, or at least, I mean, like a couple £1,000 train, basically. But I mean, it just, I build them. So you just melt them down afterwards. So I mean, and for the movies, I figured, this is a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You don't get to make a movie every single day. So whether or not the movie is bad or not, or at least not that good to watch, it's still going to be interesting to see. So they would take real trains and put them across tracks, and even do some real accidents with trains and all that, and then film it and everything, and then put a movie around it, basically. So. So anyway, and then at some point in time, like I say, black people decided that they could possibly win, and so they started using aircraft and actually doing strikes against my cities and towns. But of course, my cities and towns are defended, and I had German pilots, Japanese pilots, and American pilots that would do nothing but train on aircraft. So when these black pilots started strafing airfields and strafing towns, trying to kill off all white people, well, they found those towns were actually defended quite well, and it didn't work. So, like I say, it's very much an equal opportunity life, and when the black people decided to go against basically pretty much everyone, well, they kind of lost. So otherwise, there wouldn't be any white people left in this world right now, and they would have won. Like I said, the black people were gassing white people. They were shooting white people. They were strafing towns. They were basically just killing them all the time. So anyway, but that was something that was being done that was underhanded and pretty much a effect of Mr. Brown, Papa, and some other people that considered themselves powerful. Um, anyway, so, but for the most part, though, we were making movies and doing all kinds of things from like 1920 on. And I was very upset to find out that one of my groups was actually doing that. But LS movies, or LC movies, Lucifer Star movies, were made quite a bit, and there was quite a bit of money spent on them. And even though there's probably massive amounts of embezzling, they were still made. And even though those people may not have been paid as much as they should have been, well, those people still were doing something that actually meant something, so they actually tried to make them as good as they could possibly make them. But you have to understand, this is 1940, and it is a brand new art form. And over the next 75 to 80 years, movies go from basically being more or less documentation of events to actually being real movies. And of course, we go from having, like I say, black directors and other directors would actually shoot or kill their extras in the making of the movie, which was very much not what I wanted to have done. But that's what they were doing. So, and at some point in time, the Irish figured this out and knew exactly what was going on and decided to stop it. And they actually had the tools and the manpower and the tanks and the weaponry to stop it. Not to mention the Japanese and quite a few other groups which were trained and combat ready within my government and planet. Like I say, one thing I did do was train a lot of troops. So, I always believe in defense, and being able to defend yourself is very important to me. And so the Japanese, which were one of my best combat troops, by the way. Like I say, the Japanese were Japanese and Chinese were a group unto themselves that practiced all day long, every single day, and did nothing but practice. So they were very effective in defending themselves. And also the Germans and also the English and even the French were also fairly good at shooting and stuff like that. So anyway. So their little ploy, the black person's play, the Black War, as they say, didn't really go so well. So anyway, because I had building in Japan, China, Africa, Germany, and America, and also Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico. So and Brazil. So quite a bit of building. Anyway, though, but for the movie part. There are quite a few movies made, including some real fake war movies where they actually shot my tanks with cannon and stuff like that to basically give the effect or the illusion of war. I didn't want real war. I just wanted, I had tanks and I was just trying to get people into building and production and everything, and these trains too. I wanted to encourage people to want to become engineers and want to become people that would work on a train. So anyway, so we made movies and stuff like that, and they became very famous, and now basically is what is now Hollywood, which was Pollywood, of course, back in the day. Like I say, the lesser known Hollywood is, of course, Russia. But I also did set up a movie theaters and movie directors and movies to be made in basically 7 or 20 countries. Like I say, China, Korea, I believe had a movie team. Also, Russia had a movie crew for making film as well as movies, and also a few of the other countries, including America, of course, and also I think even Mexico had a movie actually had a movie team. Quite a few of the actors and directors were actually shot or killed by some of the other people during the war and stuff like that. But there is a Mexico movie crew, and they were actually making Mexican movies. Like I said, I wanted to give movies to just about everyone. So Mexico had basically like a Hollywood setup down there. I believe Cuba, I'm not sure about. I know Russia had one. I know China did. Hong Kong actually was another one. And also England had one, I believe. And what else? Who else had one? There were like 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 what I would consider directors and movies, and I actually gave them at least 100 gold or a couple thousand gold for them to actually be making movies, as they moved along. So, and that's where a lot of the documentation and also historical records and also movies. In fact, I gave out probably 20 or 10 movie cameras that were fairly expensive. So, as well as my photo people. So. Anyway, and there was probably at least 50 or 100 of photo people. Well, I tried to keep it down to about 10 or 20, but, cameras were fairly easy to make, and we made quite a few of them. And then we started mass producing them, so everyone could have a camera. So